So Kyle, tell us what your story is.
Cannabis saved my life. That's my story. That's why I'm here.
What was the deal with that? How did you start out? You're obviously a football player.
Sure, yeah. I played in the National Football League for around 10 years, technically 9 from all the injury status and what have you when they put you on injury reserve. But for a decade in the National Football League and in college, San Diego State University. So committed to football, committed to the dream, and unfortunately that dream had consequences.
Which were opioid injuries, obviously, and how they treated you in the NFL.
Sure. Well, injuries occur, and injuries occur in sport in general, which is why I'm here as well. This is not just a football issue. This transcends through all sports. We have an epidemic where in sport, where you are injured, or in life, you're prescribed opiates. But in sports, it's inherent that these injuries are going to occur. Everything else is almost, accidental. You slipped and fell. In football, you blow your knee out because you planted your foot the wrong way, making a move. So it's the sport that caused this injury. It wasn't necessarily the AstroTurf or this or that, this freak occurrence, although those things can be attributed to it. It's just that the sport has inherencies in injury.
And then they would wind up giving you
drugs
injured, for that.
Yeah, you get injured and they prescribe you medication.
And they're all opioids.
Western medicine has no answer but synthetic answers. And these synthetic answers are no answer at all. They are compounding these problems, making these problems worse, and creating addictions that last a lifetime.
And the NFL specifically had a huge issue with being able to say cannabis is banned, we punish you, we'll get you out of here, mainly because of money.
Mostly because of money, of course. Obviously, there's this public perception and these groups of people who refuse to accept the science behind cannabis and look at it as the reefer madness drug that has been, portrayed in the media. But the truth of it is that money drives them. Advertising, sponsorship, that's what drives the league to do anything. Why are we promoting alcohol? Why are we promoting pills? Because we do. In that these pills and shots of things are given to players on a regular basis freely and without thought to consequence.
What percentage, roughly, do you think the players now are using cannabis, even though they can be tested?
I think the same amount of players are using cannabis because the fear factor keeps certain individuals from using it. But the same amount of individuals that understand the testing policies in the National Football League still use cannabis because it's a one-time-a-year test. So they really haven't taken a stance on or against cannabis. It is just that they're not accepting this up on face value. Okay, so they're making players get clean for when they need to pass a test, and then they can do whatever they want. It's well documented in player books that come out after their careers of cocaine use. I have old coaches, old guys that played in certain eras where cocaine was in the locker rooms. They just shove a blind eye to that. As we know, Toradol, unbelievably damaging, yet still today is in the locker room before games, and there's that line that you can get this shot freely. It's just a matter of you going, yeah, I want it, But when there's a dealer, if you will, saying, here, I got this for you, it's going to help you, what are we really talking about here? And at the end of the day, I realized these hypocrisies in it, and more importantly, what it was doing in my life and how my life was being ruined. I was hopeless. And what I found in cannabis after I committed to saying to myself, as I'm sitting watching TV one day and I see a commercial about a certain class action lawsuit that's going on for some drug, and then the next commercial is this new drug that they're promoting and all these horrible side effects they're trying to paint around this pretty picture, and I just realized as I'm sitting there one day in my depressive state, in this reclusive state in my home that I was in, that this is going to be me one day. I'm going to be finding myself sitting on a couch watching TV, and a commercial pops up and says, if you were on Depakote, if you were on Zoloft, if you were on Wellbutrin or Vicodin or Percocet or Lorataz or on down the line, you know, you have an opportunity to take part in this lawsuit if your liver's failing, if you're dying of some disease, you know. And I realized that's going to be my life.
And you changed.
And I committed. I committed to cannabis. Once I committed to cannabis, I found certain strains that I knew were out there, and it changed my life. It saved my life. I went directly from hopelessness to hope again. And when you find hope again, you cannot deny it. This is something you cannot deny.
Well, that's great. Well, let me ask you a question relating to access and being able to get it in terms of Prop 64 is happening in November in California.
Yeah.
What's your feelings on that?
My feelings are as they always have been, and this plant needs to be free. And so I understand that there's arguments on both sides because of the language of the law, but at the end of the day, the law itself in freeing the plant, I believe firmly, will change everything. It will change what is wrong with the policy, in the paperwork, in its literature, because people will have the opportunity to experience cannabis. And what I've experienced and millions of other Americans have experienced while we beg for this medicine, when these people have the opportunity to finally not be affecting their jobs, or, you know, companies can't drug test anymore, and so finally the guy who's always, I mean, I don't know how many police officers and firemen that came to my restaurant that I had that said, man, we can't wait till we're done being police officers and firemen so we can get rid of, stop drinking and just use marijuana, use cannabis. I'm like, this has to end, you know, and it will only end with legalization.
Hopefully November it will.
Yeah, I hope so, because it has to happen. If the plant's legalized, everything will fall. It will fix all the crazy brains like it fixed my crazy brain, and allow people to understand life as it should be lived.
Great. Well, hey, thanks. Again, shake your hand.
You.
Hey, thanks for coming by.
Thank you for what you do. I appreciate what you do.
Thanks.